All right, let's get it. Part two. For some odd reason, I was trying to roll up my windows and the phone touched my surface and it stopped the video. So that usually doesn't happen. I usually just try to do one shot. And for some reason my second phone isn't turning on. I have to get my second phone repaired, and the second phone has the other YouTube accounts on, and those two other YouTube accounts, I I forgot the password to that, and now it's just I'm having trouble like accessing the other accounts. So I'm only on the Umbriel account because obviously I could still be making songs, right? And I could still be kind of like doing lives with Meta Mindset lives, sharing the songs on the Libra, and then just kind of like the new shit on this Umbriel. I still have this phone right here, right? And yeah, just going where I left off from the recent video. And from the recent video, I guess that pause was kind of like, there's we don't necessarily know what ordains how we move, Cuz in human design there's different formations of incarnation crosses, and within those incarnation crosses there's like a four-step process casually within the incarnation cross of just how we kind of cardinalize and initialize, you know originally saying it respectively, what makes up, I guess the quote unquote agenda of our destiny, end quote. Because you could say the quote unquote agenda of our destiny, end quote, is the incarnation cross in human design. And those incarnation crosses, they have different quarter formations of what ultimately like makes, the incarnation cross in different ways. And obviously, it's the sun, earth, north node, and south node, if I'm not mistaken, in what makes your incarnation cross. But you know, traditionally in some different yoga settings, the yoga chakra work that has inspired like low key everything respectively. And not to be too kind of like, draggy with it, I'm not about, do your own shadow work for you to be comfortable with, life and shit, right? That's what the fuck, keeping up with the shadow work is like, you don't need to project your stuff on anybody else. But I want to get back to the point. I want to get more structured with this video, and I'm just leading off from the second video. So leading off from the second video is just kind of, I left off on a certain point, and now I have like, different talking points to talk about. Rahu is kind of leading us to our shadow, right? And our shadow self is kind of mixed within some type of esoteric shadow self, and then some type of like matrix shadow self. That's what Rahu's doing, right? Rahu's a part of that. He's that part of some type of quote unquote not self is going to be there, and that's part of the incarnation cross. So like, honestly, for some reason, like, I respect everyone doing their stuff, but like, if we don't recognize like new shit, then that's our own shit, like, I don't care, I just don't care, like. But I do care about like, what source needs me to know, right? So what's ordaining a moment is like, I guess the subtle energy, the subtle like beings within us, the chakras, the intelligence of the chakras within us, that could be ordaining the moment itself. The very, like, every move you make, every thought you think, every feeling you feel is based on your inner relationship to the intelligence of the chakras within you. And we're new to that. We're unconscious to that type of work. And that type of work, we could start with that work, and then we could understand why we do what we do. And as we're understanding why we do what we do, we could then kind of more or less study human design, and then we could ask ourselves in human design, why does the throat chakra particularly have the majority of the gates of the quarter of the form, the gates of the quarter in the form that constitute the quarter of the form, the gates are in the throat chakra. Why? Because the throat chakra is like in some, oh, and now I'm wrapping it up to a different point. Some unique yoga traditions, they tell you to start with the throat chakra first. Some tell you to start with the root chakra first. Some tell you to start with, so and so chakra first. But very unique traditions, and I think this might have been an Egyptian tradition, maybe, like, because obviously, like, we can't project our own bias on the Egyptian tradition. We have to see the purity of it and to the non-purity of it, respectively. Original, open source, thank you very much. And within that, some traditions actually ascribe to work with the throat chakra. So this is, for me to fucking say this is on some sacred mystery teachings type of shit, and I'm just dishing it out casually. So this is this is like one of the realest shits ever, like going towards a particular type of wholeness, obviously, because that's what it's accrued and accredited to. It's like a different wholeness that will modest me. But like, for me to realize, me studying like Egyptian traditions a long time ago, or other ancient yoga traditions, and each yoga tradition being different, unique yoga traditions being different. There's like African yoga, Egyptian yoga, there's Chinese yoga, there's Japan yoga, there's Taoist yoga, there's like all these different types of yogas within yogas, and many of those traditions, they adapt towards how they are, because we need to do what is for our nature. We need to do what works for us. We need to be considerate about ourselves and the positive relationships, and the toxic human is non-considerate about other shit, and that's just, if the toxic human is not considerate about other shit, then they have detrimental shadow programs within them. But not focusing on that is like, a truth I learned way back when was like, certain Egyptian yoga traditions, they would say maybe start with the throat chakra for whatever reasons they have. And now me kind of like brushing that up with that, me hearing that a long time ago, and me studying human design, regardless of, how, because you could ask, how long has Source studied human design? Maybe he made it. How long has he been making it for? So this is like some advanced critical thinking that goes towards that unbiasedly. Because I'm not with the detrimental, lower octave intelligence and identifications and self-representations for them to like just kind of use that as some type of, casual metaphysical scapegoat, of like, oh, I'm a professional in this, but yet there's critical intelligence that goes beyond that shit and before that shit. So within that being said, me kind of brushing up on new truths and insights, new to me, new, freshly like reiterated to the collective, is the gates that are in the quarter of the form, those gates are in the throat chakra. Why? Because the throat chakra is the subtle nervous system body that is it's a lighter physical body, is your throat chakra, because your throat chakra is some type of threshold between your dream body and your physical body, respectively. That throat chakra, because that's the communicator, that's the nervous system, that's the thyroid gland. And the throat chakra that's the thing, based on how we're developing ourselves from the throat chakra, from the different dream chakras, respectively, to the different surface level human physical chakras. All of those physical chakras are counting on the throat chakra, because the throat chakra is the thing that's organizing and communicating the subtle bodies within themselves. So how the human physical chakras go back to that throat chakra, more or less barely doing the energy work, they could focus and start with the throat chakra. Shout out to classic Egyptian yoga tradition schools, the real ones, or just any other tradition, just like unique yoga in general, because yoga is it's under misunderstood. It's been in all the traditions. It's already been remixed 3,000 years ago, thousands of years ago, and how it's being remixed casually within since popularly from the 60s. That's always been a thing. That trend has always been a thing. Oh, you're new to yoga. It's the deepest shit because it's some energetic physical organization of metaphysical properties and objects and formations alike, and everything else comes after that. So and it's all tied, and everything else is just a branch of that original yoga of energy. So the throat chakra in the updated human, that throat chakra has it's a very unique instrument. It's a very unique tool. It's a very unique part. It's a very unique processor. It's a very unique function. There it is. It's a very unique necessary function for how we actually mutate and how we actually like attract and even quote unquote non-attract, just not dispel, de-attract, So the throat chakra, it's how we attract, because everything we receive or everything we project and express, that projection and expression, it's the key indicator to see what that could be compatible to, and what that could actually like what that could actually magnetize to it if it's a fit, or push it away, because as we're expressing, it's something of a projectile. It's a projection as we're expressing, and that projection is going to standardly cost us to see, something that we're pushing out. By a standard principle, it's going to push something away naturally. Something that pushes out will push something away, and as something is getting pushed away, it will magnetize from you. It will de-attract from you, right? So the throat chakra, the gates that are in the throat chakra in an advanced human design level, the gates that are in the quarter and the form, most of those gates are in the throat chakra. So now we're understanding that the throat chakra it's one of like the initiatory type of phases of just life overall, of just how like of how we're pushing things away, expressing things through our energetic projections, not good, not bad, and then reality interpreting that, and everything else interpreting that, and it bringing us things back more or less in the world of duality, that, and it could deliver things to you that could be quote unquote good or bad, right, end quote. Because if the throat chakra is like kind of like constituting how our form evolves, because the gates in the throat chakra are like those are the gates of the quarter of the form, and most of those gates are in the throat chakra. That's because the throat chakra is constituting to how the form evolves, low key though, and how the form evolves is based on what are we pushing out for us or against us, or what are we putting back in for us or against us, based on the spells that we're learning from our dream body to here, because everything's backwards. So this is on some like, this is real. And when I say original advanced intelligence, I'm kind of like I'm giving credit to like the Most High Source God, because that would be the thing that's kind of like, up, like maintaining and upholding it, right? That thing that upholds and maintains, right? So this is like the realest truth. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. It just is what it is. There has been a lack of intelligence. And within that lack of intelligence, people's mentality and psychology and perspectives are what they are. There's a certain level of taste of truth, particularly. Obviously, taste is a subject on its own, but I'm talking about a particular taste for truth. A taste for truth. People don't have that particular taste for the truth, because obviously taste, that's a different subject in human design, but I'm talking about something like quote unquote proxy, end quote, something parallel, something, related, but like kind of like, quote unquote offspring, like, end quote. So yeah, so and leading off on the last video was me saying like people want things a certain way, right? But they don't know how to approach, you know. And if they don't know how to approach whatever result that you have, that's your responsibility standardly, right? So sometimes I get like sometimes like I'll see a bird and then like I'll like lose a different train. But I'm gonna go back to this back to me speaking on the throat chakra, right? So the throat chakra is like it's responsible low key for us to kind of see how our body is getting programmed is through our throat chakra, whether that's open or closed, defined or opened. Still, the throat chakra is a particular function within us in how we organize our metaphysical body, respectively. And whether the throat chakra is opened or closed, I talk about something like that topic way differently in a whole underground thing, because honestly, like, I'm not necessarily calling anybody out. I'm just saying like people shouldn't really assume what they don't know, you know. I'm not like, so it's not what you do, it's how you do, obviously. But it's like, and I'm not, so for me to bring like clarity, intelligence here, it's not me calling anybody out. It's like, it's me kind of like waving some type of like, you know, flag, I guess you could say, of just saying like, and that was an old one, but whatever. Of just like, saying like, you shouldn't assume what you don't know, but yet you still do, because that's your unique unconscious and lack of knowingness, respectively. But some people still do that within their psychology. You could see it within the standard ego, and that standard ego having different types of not selves, you know, respectively. So this is like, this is my own shit, you know. But whatever. But still being graceful within, like, you know, the predecessors and I guess, you know, their unique shadows and what that created, because that's what life really is. So the throat chakra, little do we know, it's underrated to kind of focus on that, you know. So the throat, because obviously the throat chakra, it's like unique yoga traditions in the past, whether it was some type of Kriya tradition or not, or some type of, you know, African yoga or Egyptian yoga or Thailand yoga, whatever the case the yoga is, certain unique yoga traditions tell you to start with the throat chakra first. And some will tell you to start in other chakras, but to start with the throat chakra, it's so underplayed, because it's like that's the thing that helps you like receive your outer communication, even if it is defined, right? Whether it's defined or opened, or defined, opened, or, you know, I guess refined, is is how you're gonna like how you're gonna process the collective communication, because the throat chakra, whether it's, you know, open, defined, or closed, I think those are the three: open, defined, or refined. That's going to see how you're working with the communication itself. Are you kind of more like, you know, working like for the collective communication that would be defined, or are you receiving collective communication, or are you doing like a little bit of both, you know, in a unique way? And then obviously how the other chart expresses with all the other aspects, that will kind of constitute how you're using your throat chakra and how the throat chakra plays a part for you, you know, significantly. But regardless if it's open or closed, the throat chakra is still a thing to start with, because it's the thing that's organizing your inner kind of like self, low key, right? So and as it organizes the inner self, what we're ready for, The throat chakra is always going to be receiving based on and knowing what the physical body is ready for, and it's also going to be projecting perhaps and expressing perhaps based on what it knows, right? That's the throat chakra. The throat chakra has the keynote game themes of quarter of how the form is kind of evolving, how the prosperity of the form is through the throat chakra, right? So the prosperity of the form, the prosperitalization through the formalization of your metaphysical individual unique template is through your throat chakra, and your throat chakra based on your quote unquote gradual readiness, right? Life, you doing some type of energy work where your chakras could be kind of like healed, right? More or less, do some chakra work, and as that healing begins to take place, then we could actually go on a healthy trajectory for evolution individually and perhaps collectively. Do you smell the irony? So within that, the throat chakra, it me brushing up on the human design insights, it's saying like maybe we could focus on the throat chakra in like in the metaphysical sense, because obviously then, like, someone will make the joke, oh, like, hey girl, what that chakra do or something. Like, I don't, but like I didn't want to take that turn, but it happened. But the throat chakra is like it's underrated because it's how we're kind of like receiving and expressing who we are. And if we don't receive and express who we are, we're going to lose ourselves. And if we lose ourselves, you're not going to know self-love, because to know yourself is love, and to have love is to know yourself and appreciate yourself. So it's one thing about love that we don't necessarily know, is to know yourself, the knowingness, the ability to have it, to have the knowing. So within the throat chakra, it's we could start to heal that part, like, just and why it's important to heal the chakras is so you could actually get like, feel like, God's quote unquote energy of of pureness and balance, quote unquote, energy pleasure, end quote, to fill the body eventually, right? To heal the chakras, it's important. And you could start with the root chakra too, like start like the doing the root chakra, like actually like kind of like put yourself in the right environment, work out, maybe like do a physical cleanse, that kind of stuff, like, or do what, like, kind of like what you have to do as far as like, the work ethic, that's the root chakra is like kind of all of it. The root chakra could also be looked at as the work ethic too, because like we're at where we're at, based on, how the soul is fucking organizing all this fucking shit respectively. And the soul is pointing to the G center, I believe it's gate 15 that Mercury and Venus are in right now, modesty. And that gate 15 modesty is in the G center, and the G center is the seat of the soul. And the seat of the soul, how it's been organized, it's pointing to the sacral chakra. It's pointing to surface level Venus, because Venus rules the sacral chakra, right? So if Venus rules the sacral chakra, she recognizes that there's a bigger picture design, but all respects to Venus, that there's a bigger picture design in how other fucking chakras are doing their other fucking shit to maintain like different levels of the cosmos, solar system to, I guess, quote unquote galaxy, right, respectively. The G center, the seat of the soul, and that seat of the soul is pointing to the sacral chakra, gate 15, modesty. Mercury and Venus are in gate 15, the seat in the G center, the seat of the soul. So they're knowing. So every time a planet is in the G center, in a gate, and every time a planet is in the gate of the G center, it's low key letting us barely appreciate that there is some type of universal source, because the G center most respectively is pointing to the universal source, because it's some type of epicenter where the energy is more raw with the pure energy. the G center, and from that, the predecessors are understanding that, and they have made the humans, they have made the solar system, and they have updated the programs within the Insight, Keynote, Gate programmings of the G center. So that G center is the seat of the soul. The seat of the soul is pointing the sacral, respectively. In one surface level dynamic, the sacral chakra is ruled by Venus. And so Venus is so it's kind of, isn't that kind of ironic that like gate 15 is modesty, and that gate 15 is pointing towards like the sacral chakra, but obviously like just in different avenues, some planets are prominent in certain areas, right? But you could say Venus, like all the planets are all the chakras, as I've said before, but in certain very particular avenues, certain planets rule a certain chakra in a certain physical 3D to solar system environment. So that's why you could say Venus rules the sacral chakra. She's in the physical solar system, responsible for feeling the sacral chakra, because that's her power. That's what she kind of won, or she was endowed from a different quote unquote universal game, end quote. Shout out to higher octave Venus. We love you. And but still she's a part of a bigger picture too, because the G center is pointing to the sacral chakra. The seat of the soul is pointing to Venus. Gate 15, modesty. Hello. Mercury and Venus in gate 15. We actually have the communication where we have, casual spiritual information where we now know this shit. Mercury in gate 15 in the G center in cusping Gem and Cancer, but more focusing on like how the cusp of Gem and Cancer is programmed. Gate 15, the seat of the soul, and the cusping of Gem and Cancer is the seat of the soul chakra. That there's a chakra. The chakras are resonating behind the constellations themselves. Let me check the battery. 17%, not bad. So the chakras, they're having a different resemblance behind the constellations, and as that's happening, Mercury and Venus are in that G center seat of the soul chakra area, and that seat of the soul G center chakra area is having some type of different surface level programming relationship with the area space of time within different types of solar systems between some type of Gemini constellation and Cancer constellation. Mercury and Venus are there within that area. We're getting like metaphysical communication on how the season of in between the transition of the ending of spring and the start of summer. We're knowing what that means. We're knowing how even the quote unquote stock market could be responding to that season in itself, respectively, because Mercury, respectively, is about the stock market too. So like, the stock market, low key, it could be responding to the seasons differently in a different way based on how it rises and falls, and based on how some different background level, how different seasons have their own amplifications of different energies, right? And then the Venus, the sacral chakra being in that area too, is Venus is in Venus and Mercury are in gate 15, the seat of the soul. So we're knowing about the soul, and our physical human body, our quote unquote inner sexual self, end quote, standardly saying it, is being modest to the universe, right? Venus in gate 15, Venus in the G center. We're being modest to the universe, right? Mercury, and so throat chakra, sacral chakra in the G center. So we could be feeling the universe, respectively, like appropriately too, right? And hopefully maturely, and hopefully even fucking laws on just a standard level will be even made about that, because it's recognizing how things come from nature, and then it's recognizing how other people have their own filtration systems, and hopefully some intelligence in the cosmos could recognize and highlight different types of distortions and different beings who ride off that shit, because this is the most advanced intelligence ever. So So the throat chakra, low key, it's kind of like seeing how we, so, but it's like, it's not, we don't necessarily have to focus on just like one chakra to start off with, but we can. And as we're doing that, we can look at the throat chakra in a new way, in how that's how we kind of move too, you know? It's how the form is changing, is through our throat chakra. But the throat chakra, it's also working with the other chakras, and as it's working with the other chakras, the throat chakra will kind of like send all of the information of the other chakras to a dream body, and it will take all that feel, and based on all the feel from all the other chakras that the throat chakra sends to the dream body, that's where you literally go in the dream world, respectively. Shout out to the predecessors. And that's the thing. And then we meet after the dream world based on how we're participating uniquely within the extreme polarity of 3D, because 3D is 3D, right? You know, people just, it's kind of like, it's haphazard here, you know, it's all over the place here, you know. People are like kind of leaning on just, you know, some type of society distortion, but somehow there's different types of orders that are still kind of like, you know, just letting that be, you know. So shout out to everyone, you know. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to the realists, actually, you know. Shout out to the nuance. Shout out to the realest beings ever, and shout out to the nuance. Original open source. Thank you very much. And just recognize and using that original open source towards more accurate benevolent beings in a more accurate benevolent place and space. So going back to the other video, is like, where we have a new relationship with our throat chakra of just how we're receiving information and how we're expressing information, because how we express, that's going to dictate what is for us, you know, what we are ready for, because there's a certain level of readiness energetically that we need, because if we don't have that readiness that we have energetically, then we won't get what we actually expect, particularly in a standard way. And if for us to get what we expect, we have to put different energy work in, and we have to have the right approach, and there has to be some type of like, you know, mutuality. So it's the energy work, it's the approach, and it's the mutual resonance for us to start to get to what we expect, purely though, not just fucking in this distorted shit, you know. And however that arrangement of distortion is, and if your AI could calculate the different, you know, measurements and contributions energetically of what distortion is, then let me know if your fucking AI is that fucking advanced. Quality underground 8 years. Thank you very much. But see, that's the thing. People like their expectations are, they're off key, right? And as those expectations are like that, then their judging mind comes into play. Like, why can't you be like that? Because their approach isn't there. They don't have a particular critical intelligence and physical esoteric maturation within their body of how to approach, you know? It's your responsibility. If a certain criteria isn't met, why is that? Because the approach isn't there, the readiness isn't there, the resonance isn't there. There's not a readiness, you know, and I'm trying to, and that's for me to take my own responsibility / acceptance, because I'm not going to take responsibility for other people's shit for what they fucking lack. That's their shit, and if they want to have their own, like, you know, back behind the scenes party of their own pity party, you know, esoteric pity party shit, you know, that's not allowed in certain updated mature sanctions, right? regardless of whatever the fucking firm is. It's like it's really including and appliculating the fucking real updated in communicated fucking HD shit most respectively. And that HD shit is like seeing actually following up on the fucking keynotes. Contribute this, voice your shit, be you, be now. All the fucking shit is in the HD gates. But yet we just want to pretend that we're doing that shit, and we just want to fucking like kind of have like just capitalistic shit off that. It's beyond just that. So and this is pretty standard, you know, because if I title this like the most advanced intelligence in a video that you'll hear today, like intuitively it is that, you know, but it's kind of like it's kind of ironic in one sense, because I'm also being simple with it, you know. I'm doing it in like a simple kind of way. So and it just seems like we're barely coming out of the constricted stuff of society, because it's just like, I don't know, it's just like, how does no one really voice this? Like, people just like, the bar has been so low for so long, and like for no one to recognize that is just weird. And I'm not trying to be egotistical. That's what the fuck it is. Because obviously, like, if I don't do some type of ego work, then, you know, then the ego, the lower ego will try to weigh you down, you know? And we don't want that shit either. But so we were speaking of the throat chakra. Oh yeah, we're barely coming out of a time of restrictiveness and constrictiveness. Why? You can kind of feel that, because certain things that we're saying we could do, heal the world, we're barely doing that. That's a classic example, and that's the best energetic example I could give. The rhetoric of we all, regardless of if you're a campaign or company, it doesn't matter. Just that notion of us using that rhetoric and falsity of we could solve the fucking world problems, but we haven't yet. We're barely doing that, you know? So if we're barely doing that, the bar has been raised low as far as actually achieving shit behind the rhetoric. That's the truth. So so I'm speaking about the throat chakra. I'm speaking about like we're barely, you know, coming out of a constricted energy of time, and which is a good thing actually. But still, you know, I guess certain beings could oppose that pure principle in confusion, and they could create their own hell and accumulate their own hell, right? No judgment. Because I'm trying to just, you know, we're just trying to understand this shit. But that's what love is, you know. Love is, you know, knowing why God is doing this, because it's just his mechanics, you know. We have a readiness to fucking go what we really want to go for or not. We know how to approach with critical intelligence or not. And if we don't know how to approach with critical intelligence, then you're inviting esoterically some type of judging mind to be with you, and that judging mind is going to just kind of override your original self. And as it overrides your original self, you're not going to know what's good for you, because you've let this judging mind within you, based on how you think things could happen in just like a fanciful, magical way, when it's not really like that. and how you don't want to put energy work to actually really purely get what you want. And that's by actually like more or less accepting and practicing the keynotes of, you know, all these like, you know, principles, you know, without just saying it, you know, because obviously I'm also like trying to like slide this into like after this life, we're going to be weighed, you know, we're going to be weighed down or lifted up based on our level of truth. And that level of truth is some type of energy light. And that level of non-truth is some type of density. And if we have too much density, then we're going to get weighed down after this life. That's why it's actually that. So for me to tie it in with a standard reincarnation system as is, we're all going to die. We're all going to live. We're all going to live after we die. Where are we going to go? How are we going to go? Well, it's hinted, you know, it's hinted there. What will weigh us down? What will not weigh us down? What weighs us down is practicing not truth, and that not truth is creating confusion, and that confusion is creating false habit patterns and actions that are more dense, quote unquote unfavorable, end quote. A certain density that is a unique type of restriction, and that unique type of restriction, the karma is being paid through the plane that you are in. You know, what you have pained, you will now have that pain within that plane, respectively. Shout out to the predecessors. And that's just like me being kind of etymological with it, super psychological with it, super astrological with it, super geographical with it, tropical with it, unapologetical with it. Anyways, you know, and I've had some like real good, like, I've had many sessions where I just freestyled an hour, you know, in the underground. Banger beats too. Who knows when that will come out? It will come out though. It will come out one day. And that's just me to bring clarity to, like, you know, just people who want that real, you know, the real fucking, the original real, you know, when it was first fucking introduced. And who knows how much original open source, who knows how much that really stands, you know? Like, we have to ask the advanced intelligence, how much does this open source concept really stand for, and where does it stand for, you know? Because if once we ask that, then we can actually neutralize all these other fucking petty arguments. Welcome to advanced intelligence. Don't hate the play, hate the game. Type of shit. But going back is like, we can't necessarily blame other people, you know, if we have a dislike towards them. Like, why can't you be like this? Because the approach isn't there, you know. And the approach isn't there because there isn't critical intelligence there. And if there's not critical intelligence, then you're not going to approach how you're going to want to meet someone, because you're not ready. There's not a readiness there. And for me to just accept that, for me to have my own responsibility and acceptance, that's my shit. That's my process, right? Because if I want something to happen and it doesn't happen the way that I want to happen, I'm accepting shit to be what it is. You know, the predecessors are doing their shit, and I'm climbing up my own, or I'm kind of like, you know, collecting up my own responsibility and realizing my own work that I have to do. So 3 points that I just want to kind of touch home is like, we're coming out of a unique collective age of restriction and constriction, perhaps, disclaimers in effect, because everyone's on their own shit. And then a side note for that would be is like, kind of like realizing more or less a standard reincarnation system, and what makes us so that we could go into a different, deeper density, really metaphysically, or a lighter one, based on the principles that we're practicing. That's the side note. And then the other notes that I wanted to mention was like, we're barely realizing the approach. We could take back our false judgments upon another person, because it's up to us to kind of like have an approach on how we want to meet someone. Because if you if you judge someone based on how you want to meet someone, but you don't know how you should, like, you don't know how to treat people how you want to be treated, type of shit, then that's your growth, like you're putting an expectation on someone, but you don't know how to like meet them, that's okay. I have to accept that shit, but why judge though? Like, if there's a lacking, or some type of lacking within some type of process of a growth that you're in as well. And then me touching base on just like the throat chakra. The throat chakra kind of constituting how we move in life. And I'm kind of just like rounding it up, like, if I were to title this video like a certain thing, it would be me titling it based on like, the work that I've put in, right? Not just this video. Because obviously the titles could like vary, like, oh, like the most raw truth on the web today, and obviously like that could be so, or like the most advanced intelligence on the web today, something like, but if I were to say it like that, I would want to be more going towards a fullness of wholeness, right? So it's that fullness. It's like sometimes we have to like, sometimes like we need, sometimes the predecessors, it's our duty to have a certain type of handicap so we could overcome that handicap, right? Because within that handicap, a very, very unique solution is coming out of that handicap. And for everyone just to play their part and to be what they are, and like their main, like, archetype or whatever. And within that archetype could have some type of like unique lower octave, and for beings to just be in a lower octave, like kind of like, just a different version of, because like the archetypes, they're not like the archetypes are like they could go towards quote unquote distortion, end quote. So I think I'm going to wrap this video up, because I probably need, I'm probably like, I want to listen to the video before this video, see how it connects with this video. I want to take some notes, obviously, and I want to kind of like do another video of just the astrology, and how the astrology is like also saying like, collective north node Rahu, that's seeing where the collective shadow is been, and how that space and time is feeding the collective shadow, and how the collective shadow is being programmed to act on something based on the space and the seasonal temperament that it's in. North node in Aries, the collective shadow, because Rahu is bringing you to your shadow, right? Rahu is bringing you to your raw self. The collective raw self is being brought to like, let me be me. I am me. Like, I like, the real like pure, the real pure, I don't give a fuck, right? North node in Aries. You have a good day.